lights are out and you stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life feels lemons, just hold on me. Just hold on me. Just hold on me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just hold on me. Just hold on me. Just hold on me. Just hold on me.
A new season dawns, and it dawns in the land of the rising sun. This is a track which hosted two World Championship Formula One events in 1994 and in 1995, both of which won by the legendary Michael Schumacher. This is Okayama, the former Circuit TI Ada, and this is your eFormula series on ESPN, your esports broadcasting network. Hello, everyone who is watching around the world for all of this action. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside, of course, by Frank Marchese, looking to bring you all of the coverage here for a fourth season of this championship. And it is a tricky little circuit to start things off, Frank. It's one which, by all intents and purposes, is going to be a tough overtaking track today. And on top of that, is going to feel very much like you've got the restrictors on, because you're going to struggle to get alongside.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a nice little racetrack as far as there are a lot of nice long straightaways here. But those last couple of corners, that last sector really is a very tight, technical, difficult part of this racetrack. It is going to be very much you have to set yourself up for a pass going into turn one, or the turn you see on screen right now at the far east side of the circuit, if you want to get a solid lap in.
And it's those solid laps that we continue to keep a focus on, as we are just a couple minutes away from practice here at this point. We've got ourselves so much on the horizon to keep in mind, but we do need to cast our minds back here just a little bit over the championship that just came before. And it was a very important victory for the driver in the 10 machine here today in terms of that championship push. Paul Ilbrink managing a very dominant late stage of the season to secure the championship outright. And Frank, really, it was that run of victories that Ilbrink managed to secure that made him just a menace for everyone else on the grid.
It was one of the best end-of-season runs that we've ever seen in any form of racing. Ilbrink had such a rocky start to the season, but when it came down to it, he came ready to fight and did end up winning a lot of those final races. And guys like Pavel Vasiliev and Dave Gill just could not hold on.
No, they absolutely couldn't. And it's going to be a long road for them to try and get points back and to get results that are very much needed here today. Teams Championship was also an interesting battle as they got right down to the nitty-gritty, and it was in the end Atomic Racing who were able to take that one away with them. Not with everybody here today is Atomic, as we are about 30 seconds away from practice coming to an end, but what you can say is that if you can get those points on the board early, build up a margin, makes life a lot easier later on in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Atomic was able to do so well at the beginning of last season, was that they were able to get a lot of points at the beginning and able to push the other teams back a little bit. So this way, if they did falter, they did have a little bit of breathing room. Tulip Racing came on strong at the end, flip-flopped the team championship lead towards the end there a couple of times. And because Manuel Domingo wasn't really around last season, I think he made only 2 starts, that really put Radicals Online back behind them. Really wasn't a competition with them.
No, it certainly wasn't. But what we can say is that Domingo is back, and Radicals Online want a challenge this season as qualifying is about to start. 16 drivers here today at Okayama, and they are all going to try and score as many points as they possibly can. It's an important start to the season, especially around a track which is very much a tiptoe start to racing. In sim time is 8:15 in the morning. Track temp is 28 degrees at this point in time, so it's only going to get hotter as it goes on. Frank, this is going to be a case of get your lap in and get your lap in quickly, because it's only going to get tougher from here.
Yep, absolutely. And you see a lot of the guys out. I think only 3 or 4 guys are not on track right now. Mark Bruning, Esteban Guadarrama, and Brandon Perry, who just joined the session. The only drivers not on track, and as I say that, Mark Bruning is out on track right now. So it's only Esteban Guadarrama and Brandon Perry, who's still loading into the session, that have not gotten out on this racetrack.
Yeah, that definitely is the case. And now it's about finding space over the course of laps out there. Let's have a focus on Paul Ilbrink, the reigning champion, two-time champion now in this series, and see what a lap around Okayama is going to be like. So setting it up, gearing it up through the final corner here on this circuit. A lot of English names as well around this Okayama circuit. Quite surprising for a track in Japan, but it's a quick blast towards the first corner, turn number 1. Very easy for you to find trouble.
Do that.
And Paul Ilbrink, you say, I believe it was Peyton Manning, Frank, that said that the first corner, or the first snap, so to speak, in a football game decides everything. He decided, did Peyton Manning, that the Raiders would be a 6-11 team. Well, I've decided that Paul Ilbrink will be third place in the championship on that spin. Yeah,
there it is. It's close enough, at least. His teammate Manuel Domingo's put on a nice little flyer, and it really doesn't matter what car you drive around here. Turn 1 around here is not an easy corner. It's very flat. It looks so inviting to take so much speed in there, but that gravel trap does come up on you rather quickly.
It really does, and it's an old school feel to this circuit as well, Frank. This isn't an FIA Grade 1 circuit where you've got millions and billions of miles of runoff. This has gravel, and this has that old school feel that you'd race in the late 90s and the early 2000s around circuits where you get grass, you get gravel, and if you make a mistake, you are punished.
Yep, absolutely you are. As we're taking a look right now at one of the series newcomers, this is Eloy Caballero coming through that tight and winding final sector. Third best time now, fourth best time, fifth best time now as Manuel Domingo takes it over. But he's looking like he's going to set a pretty decent lap here, does Caballero. And do you want to try jumping on board somebody and see what we can do again?
Yeah, we will try again. Let's take a click a couple spaces back to Juancho Avale then from, I believe, the Basque region in Spain, looking to try and make a charge. Little car spun in front. So through turn 2, this is the Williams corner. Off camber as you go through that section of road. And then you've got this flick of the Moss S after the legendary Sir Sterling Moss before you reach the Atwood curve. This long right hander, which seemingly goes on forever as you put the power back down, trying to search for anything you possibly can. You're on this back stretch. There's a small kink to the left that can catch drivers out as they look to settle down into the brakes on the hairpin. And then these corners are going to start flying thick and fast here in this one. The Revolver is a huge corner on track, so easy to throw it in deep and not remember where you are afterwards. Then it's Piper's corner here, the next left. And following that, the third straight left-hander in a row. Redmond, the hairpin here, coming up. And it's all about transfer from left to right because you've got the right of Hobbs, which follows immediately after. Back on the power again, another car has spun off there onto the inside. They can escape as many times as they want through Mike Knight and into the final corner. That is a lap, finally, around this Okayama circuit, and a quick burst of pace over towards the line. 17.2 so far is now down to a 16.9. So Juancho Avale getting up into 4th position just behind Camille van den Driesche.
Yep, and a very good lap there by Ovale. Again, one of the newcomers and one of the new teams as well. We saw his compatriot, Eloy Caballero, in that very familiar black and blue machine. That's Iridium Motorsports, one of the new teams. A lot of new teams here. I think if I remember counting it correctly, there's about 5 or 6 new teams here. Some of the same faces on different teams, but still a lot of new colors you're going to be seeing out here this season.
Well, we call it feng shui, don't we? They've changed around the room seating, so to speak. Everyone's gone straight through. But at the moment, it is Pavel Vasiliev, just like he did last season as well, by the way, Frank, at the front at round number 1. Now, that consistency over the season wasn't able to be replicated over the course by car number 11, but it's the sort of time you look at and go, well, there are opportunities to go and get that back together on the board. Surprised at the moment here, with 5 minutes through 15 of qualifying, Paul Ilbrink is currently down in 10th place.
And a beautiful looking new car there for Pavel Vasiliev in that Atomic Racing number 11. Reset the pole time just as Manuel Domingo was on an absolute flyer behind him. And just as you mentioned that, Ilbrink now in the number 10 instead of the 16 that we've seen him in the first 3 seasons. Ilbrink now up to third on that last lap.
Yep, that's a great time, 1:16.261. The top three are half a second clear of anybody else at this point in time in qualifying. It really is a spectacle to behold at this point in time. So they'll keep that in mind at the moment. Up and down the order, times are coming in. Like Craig Molnar, for example, in 13th position right now, will certainly be hoping for a little bit of speed in, I believe, the track limit racing. So we'll hopefully not be finding too many limits out there in terms of the track. And of course, as we know, Frank, this is a very, very difficult series to finish correctly, because 10 incident points, it's a drive-through penalty. And it doesn't matter what series you're in, that's harsh anywhere you go.
Yeah, it is. You have to be inch perfect here, and that's part of the reason why these drivers in this series are so good. You have to be inch perfect, not just if you want a chance to win this race, if you don't want a penalty come the end of it.
Oh, no, I agree. And those drive-through penalties, they do rack up and they do hurt. And that will be something that we did see last season, and definitely something we will see again for this one. But at least for the moment, it is a great battle going on for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. You got Joanto Ovale there with Camille van den Drische. You've got Christophe Siard, and then you've got Danny Hoekstra there in position number 7, who's just off the road and flick spinning the car back around again. So it's going to be a really tough one. They're trying to adjust to conditions, which are getting hotter all the time. And on top of the conditions getting worse here, Frank, there is that element of this is a greasy surface here in Japan.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's a track that one of the more difficult places to get around, and not just with that slippery surface. I mean, we've gone through a lap already, or tried to get through at least one. We got through it finally, but still, it's a very difficult track to figure your way around. Now, add that slippery surface to it, makes it even more challenging for these drivers. Not an easy first step out this season.
No, it's not an easy step out at all. So you are seeing this as a tough challenge to start off the season. This is not a case of guarantees. This is a case of get what you need, and quickly here at this point in time. So now you're starting to look at, okay, first times are in, and we're seeing some drivers improve. We've seen Eloy Caballero move up to 6th fastest. I believe you've just addressed that. But really, we have seen over the course of this season, and it's quite telling actually as you go down the grid, there's a really big Iberian flair for this season. A good 4 or 5 drivers there, and now we've started to get the French influence as well, 3 French drivers. So we are starting to see it be a really big challenge out there, and it seems like the battle lines are drawn over the Pyrenees.
Yep, absolutely. As I think we're looking at, I believe that is Pavel Vasiliev that we're looking at right now. And I think, again, as I mentioned, the beautiful new look on that car. His 2, I guess you can call teammates, quote unquote, in the Super Atomica cars there, Siard and what was it? Van der Drescher, sorry. Again, looking very racy here tonight.
Oh, they absolutely are. And it's going to be good that they're looking racy early, because they can start putting pressure on for points and just mopping up those points here and there. And we will be able to see that. Under 5 minutes to go now. So if you haven't put your best foot forward, now is the time to do that. I will note that Brandon Perry has been really struggling so far in qualifying here, Frank, and is 5 seconds adrift of his nearest competitor, which is, even at the best of times, a little concerning.
Yeah, that's a little off-putting. Unfortunately, just may not have the setup right where he wants it to be, but it's going to be a difficult road for him here today.
Yeah, a difficult road is certainly what we will be seeing, but up goes Danny Hoekstra up to 6th fastest then in the number 91 machine there, 1:16.8, so splits up Ovale and Caballero with a very nice bit of work. So Ovale will be keeping a close eye behind there as Herkström's looking to try and put these lap times together. But it's the same with everyone through the field. They know they've got to keep pushing around these laps to make sure that they're not going to be in any form of trouble. Speaking of trouble, I was keeping an eye on Pavel Vasilyev's lap time there. It was an 18 flat. I thought it was a 16 flat, but everyone's just spooking themselves a little bit then. Jeff Browning, who looked really, really good in practice, unable to replicate those times. 17.6 only so far.
Yeah, he is struggling just a little bit, but that's nothing too concerning here for Browning. But he has shown that he does have some pace. I wouldn't be too concerned about that 63 right now.
No, I wouldn't have concerns either, and I'm sure that we will be seeing that certain concerns out on track will be allayed during the race. Jeff Browning has been around here forever and a day and knows what pace is. Ilbrink, by the way, did improve on lap time, jumped ahead of his teammate Domingo, but there's half the gap between himself there and Vasilyev, down to a 1:88 compared to a 1:30. So still 500ths to find here, Frank, in the final couple of moments here in qualifying.
Yep, absolutely. Still a lot of time to play with. You got 2 laps. If you've timed it right, you've got 2 laps to do this. It's going to take a little while to get the tires up to temp, so you might be looking pretty decently here if you've been able to time this out properly.
And it's all about timing. So is this going to be a case of one final big lap sorts out the projected standings? Have they got exactly what they need out of it at this stage? Vasilyev is out on circuit, and a lot of drivers are hoping that their times can just jump them up a couple places. There have been some great battles in qualifying. For example, down towards the bottom, the battle 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. That's all split by about a 1/10 of a second. That's Guadarrama with Browning, Kublaji, and Molnar. They're all there together, and they all look pretty similar in terms of pace.
You know, it's going to be a nice little race there towards the back of the fields. Here is Guadarrama for the newly minted Rebellion Racing team. No more Rebellion Red and Black. It's just Rebellion Racing now. That 24 about to begin his lap, and I think he's going to be one of the few guys that's gotten this timed out well enough. He's going to get 2 laps at this if he can make it work. Jeff Browning, we see, is in the middle of his lap, about to go down that long back straightaway here. Molnar is in the twisty bit in the 3rd sector, and then Marcellus Bruning not out on racetrack right now.
No, Marcellus Bruning then will be condemning himself to 15th position out there on circuit, and we'll be hoping that there will be more to come in terms of the racing action that we have. Ilbrink searching through the final corners. He'll have one more attempt after this. How good is the lap then from the reigning champion? It's a long drive to the line here, and that is a 17 flat, so he needs to go again. He needs to go quickly. Brandon Perry's out there on circuit just in front, so we'll have to try and navigate by that over the course of the lap. But we are in that clutch period now. Just 20 seconds remaining on the clock.
Around he goes hard into the wall. Sorry. Ilbrink done.
And that is what the Moss S can do. It is a case of, I think he just unsettled himself there going over that curb. And that really bites, because that's not a traditional place there, Frank. You expect a car to go off as the checkered flag comes out.
Yeah, we're watching his teammate right now, Domingo, and right as he comes over this curb right there, it hooks the back end of that car, just as if it grabbed the right rear wheel and just threw it around, and he hit that wall a ton.
Absolutely did. Thank goodness it's sim racing. Some would absolutely say at this stage. Manuel Domingo then could be the only one who can make any form of challenge compared to Pavel Vasilyev, taking a narrow line out to the exit of the hairpin and through the revolver, pushing with everything he's got to open up Piper's corner. And then towards Redmond and Co. This is going to be where the lap is won or it is lost over the course of action. And at least for the time being, it might just be that Manuel Domingo has something left in the locker. 800ths only to find, but it looks like those lap times are indeed slipping away in terms of pace. And, well, it looks like it's been orange, 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 and orange so far, and a 1:16 on the board is a 2-3-5, so couldn't quite manage to put the gains in that gets it sorted. Maybe Danny Herkstra can improve a little bit, and my goodness, he can, but not on position. So that will be the last drivers over the line, and we can go through the grid, see how everyone stacks up. It is the 11 of Pavel Vasiliev then on pole position with Paul Ilbrink alongside the reigning champion. Those two fought for the championship last time out. Manuel Domingo goes from third on his return to the series with Camille Vandendriesche in fourth position. Then it's Juancho Ovalle in fifth position with Danny Herkstra in sixth and Eloy Caballero in seventh, along with Siard in eighth place. Javier De La Fuente starts this one from ninth with Leonardo Fabian rounding out the top 10. And then from there on down, Esteban Guadarrama, Mehdi Kablaji, Jeff Browning, Craig Molnar, Marcellus Bruning, and Brandon Perry improving in the end to a 21.7 out there on track. But one pit stop required then here today. Drivers will be looking for a good start to this race. But Frank, talk about that run towards turn one, because it's not much of a drive.
It's not much of a drive, which is a little bit more dangerous than if it was quite a drive, because while you may not have the speed built up, everyone is still going to be incredibly, incredibly close to each other. So it's going to be a tight little run down to T1.
It is going to be a tight run, and it's going to be here with us all season long with ESBN, your esports broadcasting network. Vasiliev then with control of it, but what can the new faces do? The likes of Ovalle, the likes of Vandendriesche, have they got what it takes to upset the apple cart and give a run for their money to those at the front? This is the time and the place where you want to get it done. Just 20 seconds then left. If you haven't already, like, share and subscribe to ESPN for more content brought to you by us. We are already bar one. That is Eloy Caballero waiting for the 11th hour to take to the grid, or starting from the pits. And it's looking like it is going to be a very, very late grid up. Lights on then here from Okayama. 47 laps worth of action. And we are underway. Smoking from Vandendriesche. What a start by Vasiliev. He just rocketed away from everyone else as they run in towards turn one for the first time. Vandendriesche attacking Domingo and not quite finding the angle that's needed. All 16 drivers making it through turn one without too many dramas, and the attack still continues then up in fourth and fifth places. Juancho Ovalle is now going to try and search for a way to the inside of Vandendriesche. He's not going to find it, but there you can see just how much they're checking up, Frank.
Yeah, and Danny Hoekstra goes way wide as Brandon Perry spins off in the background, but you'll notice one of the very few drivers that was not spinning the rears on that restart was Pavel Vasiliev, and that gets him out big. Oh, and a big accident here going into the braking zone.
6-7 cars caught
one upside down.
Separate incidents in one. Look at this. Ovalle is upside down. Herkstra is on his is waiting for a chance to go, and that was all down to 3 separate incidents. It started with Ovalle, actually, who just grabbed the brakes, locked the brakes underneath, and then there was contact between Leonardo Fabian, it seemed, there going into that section of road, and Javier De La Fuente, so that caused more pileups. In the end, everyone just got collected.
26, you're right, the 27 just spinning backwards through that corner, and then everyone just piles in. And a great job there. I believe that was by the 81 of Siard that was able to get out of that without much incident. As we look at it from overhead here, that first deep blue and red car, you're going to see him spin.
And it's just been a spin from 5th position, and that is Mehdi Kablaji, who was up 7 places off of the get-go.
Yep, that would be because of that missed start. Or pardon me, that messed up run into the braking zone there, as he's now starting to get caught up by Danny Hoekstra and Brandon Perry. So take a look and see what happened to Kablaji here. It's coming out of turn 2, and that is easy to do. It's a wide sweeper, but still, tires as cool as they are, and with this track surface as slick as it is, that's not all that obscene to do.
Not just a wide sweeper, it's a wide off-camber sweeper, which makes it even easier as the tyres start to lose their grip. But It has been a calm start for some, a very hectic start for others, but the front four at the moment remain unchanged at this moment. Vasiliev, Domingo, who got up into second, Ilbrink in third, and then Camille van den Driesche in fourth position out there on track. The rest of the chase very much there. The likes of Browning and Bruning there. The Ning, I would say.
Oh,
There we go. There goes Marcellus Bruning into the wall at the exit of turn one. Sometimes we just can't have nice things.
Yeah, no, it's that classic commentator curse right there as Bruning falls victim to it. And we're going to be seeing that. Like I said, it doesn't matter what kind of car you're driving around this racetrack. That is about as easy as you like to do going into turn one. This is not an easy place to get around. It looks simple. It is very challenging.
And even more simple by the sense as well, Frank, you would say that all sim racers know this place like the back of their hand. It's one of the first tracks you drive in iRacing.
Yep, it's one of the free tracks. It's one that the rookie MX5 series comes to quite often. Granted, it is the shorter version of this racetrack that they go to in the lower classes, so it doesn't matter. Sometimes you can run as many laps as you want on a track. Just something doesn't jive with the track and your driving style can make any racetrack difficult.
It really can, and this being a very technical circuit here at Okayama is going to make life so tough. And already we are down to just 11 runners on the leading lap. De La Fuente back out there a lap down, as is Ovalle, and Eloy Caballero is stuck in the pits with Leonardo Fabian at this point in time. So you are seeing the early stages being unkind, I would say, to some individuals out there, but now it's about just settling down, finding a rhythm and finding a pace that suits certain drivers. Vasiliev will be looking behind, will be wanting to break away from Domingo. Last time by was 1/10 quicker.
Yeah, but that was after Domingo had set the fastest lap of the race, and that was at a 1:17.7, and they both really jumped their pace up. Vasiliev had a 1:17.9 the lap prior to the one that he just set. So these guys now starting to get heat in the tires, a little bit more comfortable at track conditions. These guys are really going to start to light up the timing sheet right now.
They certainly are, and this is where you start putting as much effort as you can into the race, and hopefully it all pays off come the end. So Pavel Vasiliev in control of this one at the moment. A little bit of a struggle on that lap, brings the gap back down to 1 second overall. Paul Ilbrink currently in third, still being pressured. And this has been a really solid start by Camille van den Driesche, who's clearly showing that race pace is not like qualifying pace. It is very similar.
Yep, absolutely. Ilbrink's been struggling a little bit here as we've seen him go off and extend just a little bit at a time over these last couple of laps. And then you talked about van den Driesche, a guy who is here on debut on this season, putting up a very good performance in that Super Atomica car.
That Super Atomica car is doing everything right at this moment in time. Just putting into perspective that Paul Ilbrink is not going to have everything his own way in third place. He's not going to be given the license to attack. He is going to have to be looking backwards into the mirrors over the course of this race. And so too, you may argue that the likes of Esteban Guadarrama and Jeff Browning will have to. Christophe Chiard is not too far away from the pair of them. One car in between Guadarrama and Jeff Browning at this point in time, and that is the recovering Javier De La Fuente. So work to be done for Jeff Browning, but he's probably going to be trying to get most of his positions the way he did on lap one.
Yep, absolutely, and that's one way. That's definitely one way to work yourself out here at in these road races, is just focus on keeping your car on the track. The speed will come, and people will make mistakes inevitably in front of you, and you can pick positions off that way. Browning, we saw him show pace during the practice session, so we know he has the pace to do it. Question is, will he be able to do it, or will he just take that, you know what, I'm just going to chill here strategy?
Well, we know that the I'm just going to chill here strategy has one very good benefit to it, and that is you're putting zero risk into the race. The big disadvantage, you could say, from that is that you're not going to be gaining anything from just sitting there and waiting unless the mistake comes. So that's always the swing and roundabout, the check and balance that you see in a race like this. It's not always a guarantee as you drive around and search for chances to work. Surprisingly, though, I want to keep an eye on Danny Herkstra, who's down in 10th position right now, because it looks like the car has escaped that contact on lap 1 without any damage.
It does look rather clean. Now, I'm not sure, that might just be visual, but he got a pretty good shunt in front and especially from behind too. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is some damage on that car that we're not seeing, because he's about a second off of what the leaders are doing right now. He just ran a 1:18.6, a 1:18.06, now 1:8. This lap compared to a 17.3, 1:16, and 1:9. So there might be something we're not seeing wrong with that number 91.
Potentially that's the case. Potentially that's all the pace that can be extracted out of it at this moment in time. But the front two are pushing each other to a limit far greater and superior than the others in this field are. And that is always something to just keep there in the back of the mind, that Vasiliev does have to be a little bit concerned, as there is Brandon Perry in all sorts of trouble. So I wonder what's happened here to Brandon, who looks like he's had a very, very big off coming out of the hairpin, where he's just got it on the curb and in the grass, and has really struggled to right the car again.
Yeah, and this is the hairpin in the middle of the third sector, and you have to be really patient. That's one of the things you learn quickly in the MX-5s around here, is you have to be really patient through that hairpin. That corner is really, really long, and then him just rolling to let other cars go by. So it's been a tough run so far for Brandon.
It certainly has, and I'm sure that Brandon Perry will be hoping that the run doesn't end up once again as a little bit more of trouble. But at least for the time being, the battle is closing up then for 6th place as we keep a little focus. Christophe Siard not a million miles
Domingo
away.
Domingo just blew the hairpin at the long straightaway.
Oh, and that's not what you want to see. Jams on the brakes, tries to get it stopped. It's very fortunate he's kept that on the road, but at the expense of a position to Paul Ilbrink, that is a big, big shot, because it's just completely let the tension in the lead go out again.
Yep, just tried to get in a little bit too deep. Did not do what we saw Ovale do. Did not do what we saw Molnar do earlier on, where the rears locked up. It was the fronts. He just went straight off. So Domingo, we saw him in the couple races that he ran last year, mistakes that really took him out of it. And again, right here.
Again, right here is the key. Lap 9 we are on to now here of 47 laps here in this race. And now we've got Domingo in 3rd. Van den Driesche is still in 4th position outright at this moment. A lot of gaps have been forming, but another one is closing back up again, and that is Marcellus Bruning, who is starting to be reeled back by Mehdi Kablagi, who wants to try and get through and gain a place. And this is the sort of track where you need to be about a second a lap quicker if you want to be able to find a move. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult to get even remotely close.
Yep, and we're getting onto that long back straightaway here, and this is one of the nicer hairpins on the corner that we're riding on board with Kablagi now, that they just went through. Goes uphill, it opens up as well, so you can really get on the power a lot sooner, and that makes this hairpin here a little bit more difficult as Kablagi blows the apex and Bruning locks up going through it.
Both drivers making mistakes, and as such they will even out, and this will be more of the same, you would feel. Just a bit of patience, but they can't afford to sit and wait too long, because Danny Herkstra is going to be there in a moment, and that's not going to be the nicest news that they will find themselves dealing with. It will be a little bit tougher in order to find a result that will work very nicely, but we know that Danny Herkstra is quick. We know he can make overtakes, and you know this will be straight up his alley.
Yep, no, he won't be there in a moment. He's there. As Bruning now, and Bruning's going to feel a lot of pressure from Kablagi now, because Kablagi is about a half a second quicker then that 61, and he's not going to want to let Hoekstra by all that easily. And Hoekstra is a big dive coming up into that hairpin we were just talking about a moment ago. Can't get the run off, and that's the one thing that really helps with a hairpin that opens up at the back end the way that corner does. Really allows the car on the outside to be able to defend because he'll be able to pick up the throttle quicker.
Oh, absolutely. And as they go into the hairpin, Hoekstra really closing in, under braking, and once more they're going to form into line as they try and search for the pass. Wide goes then one Marcellus Brunning. Here comes Kablaji down the inside, going through Redmond. Will be on the wrong side here for Hobbs, and trying to take the big long wide line is not going to work here, but it is forcing a defense out of Brunning, which I guess would be a positive in this situation were it not for the fact that Danny Hoekstra is right there.
Yeah, but he would take that wide line in an effort to try to get the car straighter sooner, to get the run off the corner. The problem is there's only one line corner following right after that, shortly after that, as Kablaji almost mistimed the braking zone there, completely running into the back of Brunning. Fortunately, is able to lock it down quick enough.
Yep, fortunate enough to lock it down, but it is a position of, well, where are you going to find the pass? And Marcellus Brunning again will have to look at defense, and so now will Kablaji, because here comes one Mr. Danny Hoekstra, who is very much eyeing up a really good chance for a move. He's been so good on the brakes here into this section. He just lifts in a little later than Mehdi Kablaji can, and that is a comfortable overtake and one immediately through. Now Kablaji has got to follow completely in the wheel tracks of Danny Hoekstra if he wants a pass.
Yeah, Brunning's been slowing these guys up big time. Brunning, these guys were running in the 18s and 17s, speaking of Hoekstra and Kablaji. Now with Brunning in front of them. Oh, close! Oh, big contact there with the wall for Hoekstra as he spun coming off the hairpin.
That will be really, really a case of double trouble. Hoekstra spun there in qualifying, and he has spun there again in the race. He got a little bit choked up there on the exit after the mistake by Marcellus Brunning, and then the moment he tried to put the power down there, Frank, it was a case of Danny Hoekstra struggling to get any form of traction in the rear.
Yeah, still had the wheel turned quite a bit when he started to feed the power in, and with how flat that corner is and how slippery it is, that is a bad corner around this racetrack.
And that is a pit stop early on lap 11:47. So that's going to be even more hurt. That is going to be dealing with. So now what can you say about this?
Brunning's around.
Ugh.
Kept it out of the wall, though.
And that's the thing, Frank. Marcellus Brunning's off the road, and he's off the road all by himself. He outbroke himself.
Yeah, back end's going to step out here. I'm not sure. It looked like he might have caught the grass on the braking zone, but that back end kicked way out. Great reaction time there by Brunning to keep that thing from going into the wall on the left side.
And here's the thing as well that people often don't get as the gap between Vasiliev and Ilbrink comes down by half a second to 1.7 seconds.
Ooh.
Is that, as I believe we've just seen another little bit of a moment.
No, that was the lap time that Ilbrink did, 1:16.84.
Massive, isn't it? It's fantastic. But the key is, this is a brand new car, it feels like, in essence, because at the end of every every season or every half a season, as it is in this championship, you really do notice when drivers are there and when a car feels different.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much has been done to this car and to the tire model as well that you're right. It does feel like a completely different car. We're in the first week of the season right now, so it is a little difficult. These guys not only trying to suss out each other, trying to suss out the racetrack, and trying to suss out the car as well. It's a difficult little run for these guys to open up this season.
Hey, and once again, Paul Ilbrink puts a 1:16 down on the board, and not just a 1:16, this time a 1:16.87. So consistency, he's found a groove. Vasiliev having to respond to that pace, but not enough. Still hemorrhages another 0.2 of a second. It's going to be very tough to get those back again, but still, long race, long way to go in this one. Brandon Drisha has effectively made sure it's fourth. Domingo has made sure it's third at this stage. It's not necessarily all guaranteed for Esteban Guadarrama at this stage, who is 4 seconds down the road, almost 5 seconds down the road of Jeff Browning. But as we know, this is not a guarantee for Jeff Browning because Christophe Siard is still there on the back.
And for those of you like me with OCD, you'd be happy to know that's 11, 10, 9, 8 in the first 4 positions in that order.
Yes. That's incredible, actually.
Just wanted to throw you off there. As Siard.
Hang on a minute. What? What do you mean 11, 10? Oh, now
the car numbers. As you're right, Siard really pressuring the back of Jeff Browning. The two new names. It used to be Tulip Racing US. It's now Fear the Deer Racing with the 2 John Deere sponsors on the 63 and the 61 of Browning and Brunning. You see them both. So another same name, new place kind of deal.
I wonder if they're just trying to cover for when they're in the grass so they look like they're in their natural habitat there, Frank.
Oh, that was mean.
Oh, well, someone had to say it at some point.
No, it didn't have to, but...
all the while, though.
What's the new trend on TikTok? Listen, it's a good joke, a great one even, but I'm going to have to ask you to stop.
Yes, that one. But at least for the moment, Marcellus Brunning up 6 places and Jeff Browning up 7. So, despite the joke, which is just a joke, they've been doing really well.
Yeah, Browning, I mean, again, we've mentioned it multiple times here, had so much pace in the practice session, was actually topping the practice session for a little while there. Browning with the biggest gain, the biggest mover of the race so far at +7. Guadarrama in front of him +6. His teammate Mark Brunning is +6 as well. So a very good day to Fear the Deer.
Certainly has been. And it also reminds me of the David Croft joke that was said in Austria practice about Nikita Mazepin, that how they were saying that they were making a movie about Nikita Mazepin, yep. But apparently it was a spin-off of Drive to Survive. So that was...
It's also nice to hear that Drive to Survive was following McLaren at Monza. That's going to be a great one to watch. That one has the potential to be in the highlight of the season.
Oh, absolutely. Meanwhile, battle still going on out on track, and it is still Jeff Browning versus Christophe Siard as the closest scrap out there on circuit. The gap between them when they crossed the line was half a second, and I'm not sure if Siard is waiting to attack this or he's waiting for the pit stop window to come along, because the early window of pitting in as early as you can to get a full tank of fuel to go to the end opens up around now, lap 16 of 47.
And if you want to, we've seen these guys pit a little bit after halfway, so that would be lap 23. About halfway through lap 23 would be the halfway mark, as we see the 21 of Perry just immediately evade these two guys. But the undercut, we've seen it work, not just in this car, not just in this series, but with anything really on the iRacing service. That undercut is absolutely huge, so that could work for Siard.
It definitely could, and that might be something that Siard is trying to gear up, but with a good run through turn number 1, he might not even need it at this point in time. Struggling a little bit with power application through turn number 2 to get anywhere close to an attack, but this is the sort of circuit that you deal with. It's very much the same when you go to a track, for example, IndyCar-wide, like Portland, for example. That is a very similar circuit to this one, where it's not all that easy to make passes.
No, it's really not there, and I believe they were just there not that long ago. I believe it was last week. If not, it was a test session there at Portland. But it is a very, you get a nice little mix of everything. We'll throw the track map up here right now. But you get a nice little mix of fast weaving parts of the racetrack, fast long straightaways, tight close racing in the middle sector where we're watching Browning and Siard right now, and heavy braking zones. So you get a nice little mixture. It just in some place to the racetrack, though, it's pretty awkwardly placed if you want to get passing done.
Yes, and that's what we have seen so far in this race. Passes on track have been at a premium so far, as Craig Molnar has now been placed at a lap down in this one from your two leaders, Vasiliev and Ilbrink. The gap again at 1.3 seconds. Ilbrink again taking 0.3 of a second out of Pavel Vasiliev, who is probably going to be feeling that pressure right now, knows that Ilbrink is able to make a fast lap, but it's clearly less consistent.
But it's one thing, I was going to mention it before, but one thing we are seeing out of Vasiliev this year that he didn't do last year as often as he probably should have, he's responding. He may not be running the same times, but he notices when Ilbrink picks up a couple tenths on him, sets the fastest lap, Vasiliev hunkers down and picks up a couple of tenths, 2 or 3 tenths from what he was running the lap before. So Vasiliev, while he may not be at the same pace as Ilbrink, he has that ability to respond that he did not have last year.
I certainly agree on that point. We've got 3 retirees so far in this race. They are Danny Herkstra, Eloy Caballero, and Leonardo Fabian, who are out of this race as things stand. Brandon Perry is 2 laps down. Juancho Ovalle is 1 lap down, as is Javier De La Fuente now, and Craig Molnar, as Molnar gets lapped now by Manuel Domingo out on track. Domingo's going to be an interesting one. I think he's settling for 3rd place and just making sure he's running his own one. 5 seconds to the car in front, 4 seconds to the car behind. He probably needs a spin in order to get through.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for him because, again, running in that 2nd position, would have loved to have seen him battling either with Vasiliev or with his teammate and just slid through the hairpin at the end of the long back straightaway. But Domingo, he's in that little comfortable zone. He's not as quick as the 2 drivers in front of him, but he is quicker than Van der Drescher behind him. So yeah, you're right. He is in that little pocket, and this kind of looks like where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's very much a case of deserved. And speaking of deserved, Paul Ilbrink, another 16.7, puts himself right in the wheelhouse. That wheelhouse is within 1 second. So the move might be trying to be made. But as we know, with such a, I would say, Mickey Mouse style circuit as this one is, although it's not the Walt Disney racetrack that used to exist once upon a time, this is still going to be very, very tough to find an overtake, as Ilbrink takes a wider line going through the hairpin, because as you can see, a lot of this track is built for lower class cars to be able to fight too wide. These are higher power machines, and there is that little bit of friction that could happen.
Absolutely, and Vasiliev made a mistake in the 3rd sector, in the final sector, I think. On that last lap, he was about almost 0.8 of a second slower than Ilbrink, and he's going to be slower still now with Ilbrink getting the draft off of him. But boy, you can start to see now the weaving and the blocking now starting to take shape here for Vasiliev. He knows that number 10 is incredibly close.
Incredibly close indeed, within half a second for the first time here in this one. Has been doing everything right, has the reigning champion, to bring back Pavel Vasiliev, who looks like over the course of this season is going to be the nearest challenger to the title. But at least as they go through the Atwood curve and up now onto the straight, the highest point on the circuit, it's now going to be about how do you distract driver in front. And this is where you go to that rule book of how to make an overtake, Frank, which says rule 1, get as wide as you can, get in the mirrors, make sure that you are bigger than you actually are.
Yep, absolutely, and just try to force your opponent to make a mistake, or we're getting close to that time where you could deploy that F1 strategy of box to overtake.
Definitely an option as we go through the big right-hander. Bike Night corner into the final corner, and patience still the better part of valor at this moment in time. Battle still continues on. Jeff Browning versus Christoph Siard. Gaps just opened out and extended ever so slightly. Now, this could be any one of a number of reasons. It could mean that Browning's quicker. It could mean that Siard is slower. It could also be CR trying to save some tyre and fuel mileage.
And Ciard was about a half a second slower than Browning that last lap, as Browning did an 18:09 to Ciard's 18:57. So the 63 starting to pull away from the 81 just a little bit. And speaking of lap times, remember how a couple of minutes ago I said that Domingo wasn't quite as fast as the top two? Yeah, he's now the second person to get into the 16 bracket with a 16:84.
Well, they're quick. And that much you can't argue sometimes here around this circuit. But Vasiliev is still holding on to that race lead as Ilbrink just stalks and shadows his prey. And this almost has that feel of 2005 San Marino Grand Prix about it here at this moment in time, Frank. As into the pit. No, I thought that was a pit stop. It wasn't. It was a mistake. Paul Ilbrink finding out why you can't put the power down early in these Formula Renault 3.5s.
Yeah, that was a big slide, and that was one where he really had to make a quick reaction because he would have spun off, and it would not have been good had he not made as quick a reaction as he was. And we could see him extending those curbs out just a little bit, getting out beyond the curb, taking a little bit of dirt and grass onto the racetrack with him. So he's really pushing and trying to find the limits of this.
Honestly, with that sort of mistake that close to the pit entry, and it is a very narrow pit entry here, would that have been the perfect time, Frank, for Paul Ilbrink to just bite the bullet, make a pit stop, and then deal with the time a little bit later on as he tried to make some time through the field?
It depends. If he had control of the car, then yeah, that's certainly an option. But if he's too concerned with trying to get the car back and rein it back in, there's really nothing he could have done there.
Absolutely not. So Ilbrink lucky to have a car, and we have seen this from Paul Ilbrink. It was a feature of the early part of his season last season, and something that he definitely needs to try and get out of his game. It seems he often finds himself with a small mistake here or there, but that is neither here or there at the moment. He is still in the car. He is still in what is second position right now, and you can't fault him for the way that he's driving. He knows what he's capable of doing, and that is winning races, and he is going to keep Pavel Vasiliev honest and probably sweating buckets between now and the end. We are just now over the halfway stage of this race.
It's really not of us to be trying to suggest how he should be driving, because 3 championship seasons he's won 2 and finished second in the other. So it's he knows what he's doing in this race car. Just a little, maybe I guess a little aggressive, a little bit more aggressive for our taste.
Yeah, it's an aggressive style of driving. You definitely can't doubt that, and that's what's got him to so many championships. But it is a very risk versus reward strategy, and sometimes you do have a little eye on that, you know, later on in the race it can be a little bit of, can I find something here? Can I find something there, as they get past a little bit of lapped traffic out there on circuit. But what we can say is that this race is very much in that calm period just before pit stops, and expect it to be tough to get onto the lane here. A lot of drivers are going to lose a lot of time when it comes to that pit lane entry, and how important is it that you maximize a pit entry like this one today?
It certainly is. It certainly is important. I mean, we've seen a lot of races here in this series and in other series won and lost by how quick you can be from cone to cone on pit lane. It's one of the things that doesn't get as much practice as it should. I mean, we talk about practice, trying to find the limits of the car, trying to see if you can do something a little bit different to get you time in some of these corners. Not many people practice pit entry and pit exit and stopping in the box as well. That's just as crucial as getting around this racetrack in one piece with speed.
Oh, I totally agree. And what's so crucial about the pit stops as well, it's the third phase of a race that everyone forgets to talk about. If you're good at your pit stop, you can drive down the pit. It's such a crucial part of how a race needs to be constructed. As I've just caught an eye on the times for one Mr. Esteban Guadarrama, and he is really struggling right now. His last 2 laps have been in the 1:19s, and he's fallen back into the clutches of those behind.
Yeah, I think he might have made a couple of mistakes, because he really has been off the pace more than normal. And it's that final sector, that the 4th sector around here, right around where he's coming into right now, that has been his bogey. He was about a second off the race leaders as compared to that, and around that off the guys behind him. So he's finding a lot of difficulty here in this area of the racetrack.
Very much is. And for Esteban, P5, one of his best results at the moment, up 6 places, but they'll have to hold on to that, especially with Siard and Browning there, who will want to get through, and will want to get through pretty quickly. They are 35 seconds off the race lead. As things stand right now, they are currently projected to be 1 minute off of the race lead come the end of the race. So that is at least something worth keeping in mind here as they continue on trying to find those overtakes, those all-important moves, which can create the imbalances of a race. And we do love to see those imbalances. But once again, it is about patience, and it is about drivers staying out a little bit longer. Now, the question is, how long are they going to go? I reckon around lap 32 might be as far as the tank takes.
And that's right around where you would expect. And just going back to where Guadarrama is losing pace here, you saw in turn 1 was a very good illustration of it. And then coming out of the hair, going through that first hairpin to get onto the long back straightaway, the difference in lines between the 63 and 24, that 63 is holding that car a lot smoother. He's able to float it out a little bit wider, and even there you can see just how much he gains going through the final corner here, which is not easy to get through as compared to the 24.
And now you start to wonder here with the 24 machine of Esteban Guadarrama, how long is he going to be able to hold up this group behind? This is an important battle for the mid-pack. And you talk about points in a series like this, Frank. These are the points that you don't get. You're not going to often get 3 drivers out of the race in the early goings. You capitalize on these moments.
Especially for guys like Danny Hoekstra. It's not that often we find him out early. Eloy Caballero, this is his debut, so we're not necessarily sure how he races, but did have a lot of pace, or appeared to have a lot of pace in that car tonight. So these points right here are a premium for these 3. You're right, you don't know how often you're going to get these, as Vasiliev really turning the wick up, hit a 16.78 this last time around.
And will this be a case of Guadarrama just trying to slowly break away? Into the pits comes Brandon Perry. No surprises there at this stage. Ilbrink has lost touch, and it might have been another mistake over that last lap for Paul Ilbrink. So he was right up close, and I'm just trying to find whether, yes, it was.
The final sector.
Yeah, and it was at Redmond Corner. That's where it went wrong. He had a little kick of tail, had to gather it back up in a straight line, and that ultimately did not work. So that is the difference maker there. But sometimes, you got to stay calm. Paul Ilbrink's still within a range, but again, he's going to decide, I'm going to stay out. I'm going to run the tank dry.
Absolutely, and they're going to stay out here. And going back to that last sector, 25.56 for Vasiliev in the final sector, as compared to Ilbrink's 26.36. So that was definitely where the difference was lost. This time, it was all the first sector there, as Ilbrink went fastest of all in the first sector, about 0.2 up on Vasiliev and marginally up the rest of the way around the circuit. And that was where Vasiliev really needed to focus a little bit more to try to keep Paul Ilbrink behind.
Yeah, Paul Ilbrink is doing enough to keep honest Vasiliev, but Vasiliev's been undeterred over the course of racing that we've seen. It's been a case of, I'm just going to do my job, I'm going to sit here on the front, not really deal with too much, as into the pits comes both Guadarrama and Browning to make their stops.
Yep, Kablaji in as well. And going back to what we were talking about before with Vasiliev being able to respond, saw that Ilbrink set the fastest first sector time, then goes out next time he goes through the first sector, personal best. Ilbrink reset the fastest first sector time, but still, that's Vasiliev. That's exactly what we were talking about before. with Vasiliev being able to counter and answer back if Ilbrink is able to get a run.
Jeff Browning has been caught by the speeding gun onto the pits. He has been there for a long time. His race is all but over at this point in time. And what makes it worse for Paul Ilbrink as well in this one, as he just sits in second position, is that he's now got traffic in the middle to deal with, and that is Mehdi Kablaji, who's going to be just out of the pits.
Yeah, but you're right. Kablaji just out of the pits. And also we saw there as we were looking back as Fear the Deer turned into Fear the Pit Road Speed Limiter, the 27 of Ovale is back out on the racetrack as well after being upside down on the first lap.
Yep, 2 laps down is Juancho Ovalle.
Oh, he's more than 2. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, never mind. That was Caballero that I was thinking of. My bad.
Yes, it absolutely was Caballero you were thinking of. Ovalle, yes, was upside down, but no, it was, of course, that one driver there of Eloy Caballero out of the race very early on. Still, again, no takers at the end of lap 30 from the front 2. They are playing that game of chicken as long as they possibly can here at Okayama, your opening round of the championship, and the gap still 1.7 seconds as Ilbrink tries to get something in the tyres working. It's about 6 seconds back to Domingo, and then Van den Drisha is still there in 4th position, keeping things all nice and calm and smooth. They've afforded themselves a pit stop with the gaps that they've got now, Frank, so it's literally going to come down to when they want to pit will be when they pit.
Yep, absolutely. Is Brunning getting really, really close? I believe this with Guadarrama ahead of him. Got really close going into the hairpin. And these guys are going to have to fight here because they're about to be put a lap down. Now, granted, they're going to get it back when the top guys come into pit, but still, you don't want to lose too much time here, and I have a fear that that's what Brunning is doing. He's losing a lot more time than he should be, but with how difficult this place is to pass, it's hard to set up the move.
It is really difficult to set up overtakes then, as the front 2 once again go through the penultimate corner, gear up their laps, and hopefully get some strong results out there. Jeff Browning, by the way, is back out there and racing once more. Crucial matter of fact then for Jeff is that he's about half a lap behind now Mehdi Kablaji, who is in 8th place at this moment in time. So that would put Jeff Browning back then in 9th position at this point, as again Paul Ilbrink takes more time out, a 16.8 at this crucial stage. Another half a second. It's been a case of half a second for Paul Ilbrink. It's almost like he developed them in the factory.
Yeah, but now they're coming up on a heap of traffic. If I were these two, this would be the lap where I pit, because they're coming up on this group of Brunning, Guadarrama, Siard. They're really starting to get up to these guys, and I would not want to be fighting this. If I were them, I'm pitting this lap.
I'd agree. Lap 32 of 47. They'll have 15 to go at the line. These top 2 have just been shadowing each other all race long. That is a spinner.
That was Brunning.
That is Marcellus Brunning.
And just knowing how difficult it is to get around here, trying to push just a little bit as Ilbrink does come into pit road this time. Boy, just did that to himself there. Yep. Oh, Ilbrink around in pit road?
Yeah, he's reversing. He's reversing backwards into the lane.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, he has. And for Ilbrink,
my goodness,
front end of the car gone as well.
This
he had a big moment on entry.
Practice pit lane. He goes in for the right. He tries to be aggressive. He's just grabbed the grass, trying to get that final sweeping section through. And then by that point, there's no way you're going to turn it around in that section of road. So great wherewithal to reverse it through the pit. The only thing he did wrong is he forgot to gear it back up. But that is effectively that for the race win. Pavel Vasiliev has just been given the pink slip to go and take this one.
If he doesn't do the same thing. Now, we saw, you could see there, we'll watch this pit entry again here from Ilbrink, and watch to the left. Oh, sorry, that's entering the pit box, pardon me. We'll go to the pit lane. Watch to the left here where the grass comes in. It's a little cut, but there is a little asphalt extension there behind that yellow line, and that's what he clips, and that's what sends him around. And you can see big damage, toe knocked out of that thing. He is done for the day, at least as far as the win is concerned.
Oh,
And he's out of the car as well.
Yeah, Vasiliev was so cautious coming onto the lane. And I mean incredibly cautious. He was on the pit limiter a good 400 meters before he needed to. And that is how much he did not want to jeopardize the race.
I mean, when you see the guy you're battling behind you do the exact same thing, do that, and you're coming in the next lap, yeah, you are going to be a little cautious, especially when you have a pretty decent lead to Manuel Domingo the way that he had. You can afford to be a little bit more cautious as compared to Ilbrink, who was trying to take that position away.
Yeah, Christophe Siard is going to dive into the pits now. So the question's going to be, how much of that stop from Pavel Vasiliev here is going to bring the likes of Manuel Domingo back into this race? Vasiliev is back out and going again, but I reckon that 5-6 second gap is going to be a little bit closer than it was, and it depends on how hard Manuel Domingo wants to attack this pit road. In he comes right now, through the first right at Mike Knight. Now he's got to go through the final section of road. He's just tiptoeing his way through, but that is a lot more committed through that section of track, and even then, that's still a little bit early with the yellow commitment cone.
Yeah, I can imagine. Still trying to gain as much as you can. Van der Drescher, same thing. He looked to be on the limiter a little bit early as well, or at least slow early as well, as he's trying to pull back time on the 9 of Domingo. We'll take a look at Vasiliev now, who's coming on to the main straight. Vasiliev's already gotten around Van der Drescher and now has gotten around Manuel Domingo. We'll see how big this lead is coming out of the first couple of quarters here. It's going to be about 5 seconds as Vasiliev being very, very close to spinning coming out of turn 1.
Oh my, just getting a little bit too close on the power. Had to jam the brakes to lock the car up. It is not a done deal just yet. Pavel Vasiliev is riding on the ragged edge.
Yeah, but that's a product of I'm too used to warm tires. That's what he would have done about 5 or 6 laps into this run. Now that's allowed that lead to be effectively cut in half. It was going to be about 5 seconds. It's now 2.5.
2.5 seconds. Still a good enough margin for a victory. Even 1,000th is a margin good enough for a victory. So Vasiliev has to manage this race from now until the end around this circuit. Vasiliev leads. It is Manuel Domingo in second. Camille Vandendriesche is in third position. Christophe Siard is in fourth, with Esteban Guadarrama in P number 5, and Medica Blagi. Now
Domingo's off again, coming out of the penultimate corner.
Wow. Unreal. Everyone has run into troubles today, and now Domingo, no exception.
Second time for him, and he's pushing, just gets on that curb a little too much, and just as we saw his teammate do in practice, that the curb just almost, it's as if it just grabbed that left rear and just spun it around.
It literally just did, and that gap of 2 seconds is now 10 seconds, and now Vandendriesche is only 5 minutes away, and Jeff Browning getting out of the way in a very dramatic style to make sure that Manuel Domingo could find a way through. Wow, this race has had just about everything here, Frank. It's had thrills, spills, and automobiles, it seems.
Yeah, and Vasiliev with 12 to go now can pretty well coast to the opening race win. I believe what would be his second win in the series. And how about Camille Vandendrescher right now on the podium in his debut race here? A very, very solid run for the 8. Looks as though we saw Vasiliev do the same thing. Podium in his first race, then won his second. Maybe Vandendrescher is up to that task as well.
Maybe that is the case, and maybe it's going to be a really, really important thing. The team's championship, with Domingo now in second by a very big margin, with the likes of Mr. Paul Ilbrink out of the race, as Brandon Perry is going to now go ahead into 12th position, despite being 4 laps down at this point in time. you are now starting to understand just how this race becomes so vital, becomes so crucial, just how these points stack up as the season goes on, because every small mistake will get capitalized and punished on by drivers who don't have the same amount of pace. For example, Christophe Siard is 42 seconds plus behind the leaders right now. He's just crossed the line. That gap is now 43.5 seconds, but he's still in 4th place.
And a lot of that has to do with that big turn 1 incident in the heavy braking zone off of the long back straightaway. So he's a little bit further off than what we would actually expect him to be. And looking forward to next week, going to the brand new Hungaroring next week. It's going to be quite a racetrack. It's going to be quite a race. Now, there were updates for those of you who have not driven the Hungaroring except for the first couple of days it's been out. They have made plenty of updates to that racetrack, including adding those bloody freaking bleeping sausage curbs back in turns 6 and 7. They weren't there when they came out. Now, GD, it's back.
Tell us how you really feel, Frank.
It was nice to not have to worry about dying in those corners for the couple laps I did on it.
So now here's my question. Do they have the marker boards?
I think, yes, that was one of the... They made a lot of visual updates, like the marker boards, and the light stanchions are there now. It wasn't there when it started, which is very unique. Seems like it wasn't finished.
Well, it is now, and that's all that matters as we continue on our very, very important road to our battles. And we've had some incredible racing so far here in this one. 11.3 seconds Pavel Vasiliev has at this moment in time. Manuel Domingo currently in 2nd, and Camille Vandendriesche in 3rd position. 16 seconds, splitting 6 on the leading lap as things stand right now. So everybody is going to be pretty much there, and a close little battle. A lap down is going to be worth keeping an eye out in the final stages here, Frank. Marcellus Brunning is not a million miles away from Javier De La Fuente.
Yeah, absolutely. Only 3 seconds behind in that number 61 is De La Fuente in that brand new 0X machine. Again, one of the older faces in a new place. I believe the former Rebellion Racing Red, if I remember correctly, is that Team X, so that 0X team, and doing quite a nice job here running in the 8th position.
Yep, and De La Fuente is doing all that is needed at this point in time. Just needs to score. And for those drivers who are maybe a couple laps down, reaching the finish in a series like this is sometimes the big goal. Cannot take it away from them as and when they do get themselves there. We're going on to lap 40 of 47. There's 8 laps to go here from Okayama's international circuit. A track which, by all intents and purposes, is almost a hidden gem in some respects, Frank, because they put this track in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a forest.
Spa-Francorchamps, no? In the middle of the
Spa's
Ardennes.
Not in the middle of nowhere. It's like 10 miles out from Liège.
Oh, well, that's not too bad, but it's a nice little place. And again, this is a rather difficult beginning to this season. I mean, the first 3 races, you come here, it's a beautiful racetrack, not much room to pass. The Hungaroring, brand new to the circuit. It's a very nice racetrack. Not a lot of places to pass. Formula One drivers always complain how difficult it is to pass there. And then you go to Twin Ring Motegi, which can be very difficult to pass at as well, as we saw towards the end of last season. Hockenheim, Red Bull Ring, Coda, Phillip Island. I mean, this is not an easy schedule for these guys. So passing, and you need to make up as much ground as you possibly can. And going back before, you don't know how many times Ilbrink's going to take himself out of a race this season, or Hoekstra, Eloy Caballero. You don't know when these chances are going to come around. Not to mention the fact that we don't have Christoph Boozy here today. We don't have Dave Guild here today. We don't have Mark Ponick here today. So there's even more guys here that are going to be fighting for those top spots that you're getting points from them not being here tonight.
You are absolutely correct there, Frank, and that is going to be a huge factor as they try and go around and get as much out of this race as they can. They know that points are at a premium, and this is the time you've got to score them. 10 seconds the gap between Vasiliev and Domingo. And I think a lot of these drivers are in what is known as shutdown mode. Just shut down from 100%, go to 95, go to 90, drive well within your limits, bring that car home, because you're not going to be getting too much else outside of that from the race here today. A lot of drivers have known that this is always going to be difficult. This is the sort of track where it is going to spread itself out a little bit if there are mistakes, and we have seen them today. And all of it really started from lap 1, where we saw 3 separate incidents cause a cacophony of cars, a kaleidoscope of controversy here today, and most of that down at the hairpin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've seen so much stuff go on here today. And going back to you saying the field is spread out, there's Jeff Browning right there. Or pardon me, it's Marcellus Bruning on screen right now in the number 61. He was as close as 2.5 seconds to Javier De La Fuente, and now it's down to it's back up to about 3. That's your closest battle on the racetrack right now. These guys are well and truly spread out here. As I think Domingo has gone off again. He has, because Vandendrescher has taken that second spot.
Oh, Jeff Browning not happy either about the re-entry. Just grabbing the gravel on the outside of turn 1. And there's not much room for Manuel Domingo to get that car turned around. He tries to flick it on circuit. Just about manages to get the car going again. But for Manuel Domingo, yeah, I think you've just seen how close it's been for Jeff Browning. It is 3rd position, but again, that's more points on the table. Right now, Super Atomic, well, it's going to be a super result right now. They're going to have a car in 1st and the car in 2nd.
2nd and 4th, I believe, is Atomic.
Oh, my apologies. There's Super Atomic and Atomic.
And I don't know how to read. I think it's Sir Atomic. S-U-R, I think, is what it is on there. Before it's cut off. This was originally slated to be Team Baguette, I believe, was the name of the team at the start. At least that's what's on the website, but I think Sir Atomic sounds a little bit better. Or Sir Atomica, rather.
Well, Sir Atomica doing a really good job. 2nd and 4th is going to be some huge points and the team's championship lead.
Domingo in pit lane.
One. Yes?
He's Domingo in pit lane. He's done some damage. Look at that car. Big time left hand down. So both of the Radicals Online cars out of this race.
A double dunk for race 1 of the season. That's not the Radicals way that we know and love. And this is a team that has been around forever and a day, really, Frank. It's a team that should be out there picking and choosing where it can make its big challenges in the world of sim racing.
Yep, absolutely. And we saw how good these drivers are. I mean, if Domingo can get a full season under his belt, he can definitely be a challenger to the championship. But these two guys have been making a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes lately, and that's going to be even if this was F1, a double non-points finish, 12th and 13th is where those guys are likely to fall to, as it's going to be a 1, 2, 3 for the Atomic Satellite team, whether it be the Atomic Racing car of Vasiliev taking the win, then Sir Atomica with Vandendrescher and Siard coming home in 2nd and 3rd. What a day for Atomic.
What a day indeed, when everyone else around has been running into troubles. It's been these drivers who have kept themselves clean and out of trouble, really, over the course of today. Consistency is king in a series like this, and I tell you what, we haven't talked about the heroes in 4th and 5th position here, Frank, because Esteban Guadarrama is going to be in 4th place here at this moment in time, and he's only 7 seconds back of Siard. Medica Blasi on debut is going to get a top 5.
Yep, and that's a great run for him, and once again, I still cannot read. It's not Sir, it's Subatomica. We'll get the name right eventually.
I think we can make a little bit of a thing out of this. We've got to change what
Yeah,
something Atomica is every single week.
It's Super Sir Sub Atomica is what we'll roll with that this year.
Yes, and we can make a good tongue twister out of it by the end of the season. We add 84 different S words at the
By
front
the end of the race,
Atomica.
I think. They've changed their name. They've changed their name about 5 times in the 45 laps we've run.
Well, this is brilliant. We can get about 84 more changes then by the end of the season. We're in perfect shape. Right, 3 laps to go then for Pavel Vasiliev. Now down to 2.5 at this moment in time, and everybody knows that this is the later stages of this race, and drivers are just looking to try and get those finishes. And important points coming in for the likes of Marcellus Bruning, Juancho Ovalle, Craig Molnar as well, with Manuel Domingo's retirement. Now going to be in 10th place, and 10th place, nothing to shake a stick at early.
No, absolutely not, and especially for the position that those guys were in. For Ovalle, upside down on the first lap to come home in 9th place, a very good debut for Adridium Motorsports. Craig Molinar for Track Limit Racing, doing an incredibly good job after being one of the big spinners on that first lap incident, finding himself up in the top 10. A great run for those guys on debut. The only debutant, 2 debutants to finish outside of the top 10. Brandon Perry, who we had seen was quite a bit off the pace in practice and in qualifying. Eloy Caballero was a victim of that first lap incident, but he looked like he would have been on for a nice top 10 as well.
Certainly did, and this has been a tough race. It's been one of resiliency that has needed to be found, and opportunity has been knocking for those who know that strong results come from bringing the car home first and foremost. We are about to be 1.5 laps away here, Frank, from the end of this race, and you talk about starting the season off correctly. This is exactly what Pavel Vasiliev wanted. Dramas around for drivers who didn't make it to the end, who are going to have to use their drop rounds in the championship. They get 2 of them this season, and this is where Pavel Vasiliev shines, because he is Mr. Consistency all the time.
Yeah, and he certainly has had an incredibly good run today. Got out, had a great restart, the best start of the race, of anyone, and did not let it go. Wavered the attack of Manuel Domingo before he made a mistake and fell off. Wavered the attack of Paul Ilbrink before he made a mistake and fell off. Did the same thing again with Domingo. I mean, he has done such a great job today. Learned from his mistakes from last season. Has put time and effort over the off season into this car. It's been an unbelievable run today for Vasiliev.
He leads by 24 seconds, going through the small kink towards the hairpin. Has not put a foot wrong in this race and has kept up the pace all the way towards the checkered flag, through the left at the revolver and over towards this next left-hander of Piper's. It's the sort of race that reminds you of those races in 94 and 95, how dominant the very similar coloured Benettons were at that point in time, with Michael Schumacher behind the wheel. Pavel Vasiliev in the number 11, just as Mike Knight corner and the last corner to go. And he will be able to say, along with Van den Driesche and Siard, that Okayama is atomic. It is a huge win for Pavel Vasiliev, who can take that with pride. Van den Driesche will come home in second, and it'll be a long wait for Siard, who's only just now making it towards the hairpin, 5 seconds clear of Guadarrama, who is trying to bring that gap back just a little too late.
An unbelievable run for Atomic Racing and the Atomic sub team as well. It's been unbelievable to watch these guys. And sure, you could say that Van den Driesche and Siard kind of worked their way in to a podium by mistakes from guys around them, but still, it takes a lot of work to put yourself in a position to where you can take advantage of people's mistakes. So a great drive, not just for the debutant Van den Driesche, but Siard for not giving up after going through the gravel on lap 1.
Yeah, Exactly. You have troubles on lap 1. It's not the end of your race. It's how you fight back from it. And we saw some incredible fight backs over the course of this one. Kawararama gets 4th. And what about this from Medica Blasi? Top 5 on debut. In the words of Romain Grosjean and his first race at Haas, it feels like a win. It feels like a win. Let's get confirmation of result then. It's the number 11 of Pavel Vasiliev, who dominates proceedings 1 hour, 1 minute and 6 seconds and wins by 24.5 over Camille van den Driesche in 2nd position. Christophe Siard makes sure that Atomic, in one way, shape or form, have 1, 2 and 3, with Esteban Guadarrama in 4th position and Medica Blasi rounding out the top 5. Jeff Browning, first of the drives, the lap down in 6th, with Javier De La Fuente 7th and Marcellus Bruning in 8th. Juancho Valle is in 9th, and then it's Craig Molnar 2 laps down, rounding out the top 10. Brandon Perry is the last finisher, 5 laps down, but give credit, still finished in 11th and will score points. And then you hit the retirees, the 2 Radicals cars of Manuel Domingo and Paul Ilbrink, along with Danny Herkstra, Eloy Caballero, and Leonardo Fabian, failing to make the finish in this 16-car grid here today. But time is a ticking, and Frank, I believe you have found the driver who won this race overall. Pavel Vasiliev stood by with you right now.
Yes, I have. Pavel Vasiliev, an incredible run for you today, sir. Unbelievable drive. Pole, led every lap to the win. Congratulations on the season opening victory.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it was a hell of a drive. Manuel and Paul kept me honest all race, but yeah, I managed to stay ahead. I'm really happy.
Yeah, certainly. Just talk about how difficult it is to fight those guys. It was really close between you and Ilbrink especially. How difficult was it to just be in a spot to where Ilbrink could not get the run on you?
Oh, it's incredibly difficult. When I saw both Manuel and Paul joining the race, even before the quali started, I knew it would be a hard race and a big ask to finish on the podium, because these guys are incredibly fast. And yeah, at some point I saw that Paul was quite a bit faster. He caught back up from 3 seconds gap to about within a second, but I knew that this track is very difficult to pass on, and it's very difficult to follow. So I knew that I had pretty good pace, maybe not as fast as Paul, but thereabouts, and I knew that I could be consistent long term. So it was basically, in my mind, I knew it would be difficult, but if I could minimize mistakes, I knew I could stay ahead. So yeah, that's how it kind of panned out in the end.
And an incredibly good day for not just Atomic Racing, but for the Atomic team as a whole, with the Subatomica team coming home on the podium with you. Just what is it like to have a bunch of guys that you're able to bounce setup ideas off of and try to work together instead of being alone or being with one other guy?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. I used to race alone for a long while, but most recently, maybe last half a year, we've formed a small community, and yeah, I'm really happy for the guys to finish on a podium as well and to share the podium with them. In terms of practice, it's really great because we help each other out. We always practice together, share setups, etc. So yeah, definitely, I think it's another element in this whole sim racing journey.
And we go from one difficult place to pass to another. The brand new track to the service, the Hungaroring, will come up in 2 weeks' time. What are your thoughts going into a track that is fairly well known in Formula One and open wheel circuits, but not to iRacing?
Well, I think as usual, the key is going to be to practice. I've not purchased the track yet. I've not seen it, but I'm sure it's going to be great, just like Red Bull Ring and other tracks that were added most recently. So yeah, I look forward to learning it, driving it, and having a good race there. But yeah, probably qualifying is going to be crucial once again. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Anybody you want to thank before we let you go and celebrate your first win of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank my teammates, from the guys from Subatomica did amazing today, but also shout out to Christoph and Luca. The guys couldn't make it to the race today. They're actually at the Sim Racing Expo. I want to thank all the people that joined and all the new faces that joined the series. It's great to see the league grow. And as usual, thanks to you guys for the great broadcast. I look forward to watching it back.
All right, thank you very much, Bud. Your winner this race here, season opener, Pavel Vasiliev. Bud, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
There we have it then.
User left
Pavel
your channel.
Vasiliev picking up the victory. That is going to be all we have time for here this evening at Okayama. A massive thanks to the crew that has been getting it done, of course, at the eFormula series. It wouldn't be a show without them, but of course, Okayama has proven to be a thrill in many ways, many shapes, and many forms here today. From Frank Marchese and myself, Jake Sperry, it is the Atomic Show here today. Vasiliev, Van den Driesche, and Siard have all proven that they are 1, 2, and 3. The best out there as driver upon driver found themselves in trouble today. We are expecting more to turn up for the second round at the Hungaroring, and that is 2 weeks in the distance. You will not want to miss that with us at ESPN. But this is where great sim racing finds itself into play, and it is Pavel Vasiliev who has the biggest smile, just like last season. We'll see you then at the Hungaroring 2 weeks from today.